Well, hi, Deborah. It's nice to meet you.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me on as your guest.
Yes, I am so excited to interview you, especially on Valentine's Day. Um, for the people listening, Deborah is an amazing psychologist. I will let her take it away with her credentials and why she's able to speak on love and relationships today. But I know for a fact that she has delivered so much value to people, me including, just hearing her help some people in my company overcome some mindsets. And so I think she is going to bring a really great perspective on love and relationships today. So, Deborah, I'll hand it to you.
All right. Well, like you said, I am a psychotherapist and I do a lot of work with couples and also individuals. And I'm also an author. And I have both nonfiction books. I have a book on grief called The Essential Guide to Grief and Grieving. And then I also write fiction that write a lot of, especially romance and science fiction and fantasy. But I'm most well known for my historical Western sort of prairie kind of romances. And so I also have a master's degree and a PhD from USC. And I've been counseling people for many, many years and working with businesses too for many years.
That's awesome. And in what capacity do you work with businesses? Like I know will sometimes have little chats with other businesses, but what are some other things that you do with them?
I do a lot of corporate crisis and grief counseling. So, for example, a business might have somebody die or an accident or a robbery, and I will go to the business and counsel the people who are impacted. Now, of course, I've been doing a lot of work of that kind of work online, and there's a lot of businesses who have lost and are losing people to COVID. And I'm also this year doing a lot of work in hospitals, working with the staff, especially the nurses who are overworked, stressed, dealing with all the COVID issues that they have there too. So that's been keeping me really busy.
Yes, yes. Well, your work is so needed, especially now. And I know you're making such a big impact. So I'm really grateful to have you on here. We're not going to be talking about grief today, talking more about love and relationships. So it's
More
going to be
positive things, yes.
yeah, it's more about you because you're right. We definitely need more of that in our lives. So one of the things I wanted to talk about, and I know somebody had asked this in our previous conversation about, how to approach dating during COVID. Everybody is at home.
Mhm.
There's dating apps, of course. There are a lot of I think roadblocks that people can encounter with approaching dating, and a lot of people just haven't really been able to figure out what is the best way to make these relationships happen. So I'm curious what your thoughts are on that.
Well, one of the things to do is sort of flip the idea that this is negative when it comes to dating and look at it in a positive way, which is this gives you a lot of opportunity to get to know somebody before you can be physical. And that right now, or nowadays, women, especially young women, tend to go for the hookup and tend to get physical really quickly. And the problem with that is that women have this hormone called oxytocin in their bodies that when we start getting physical with a guy or girl, if that's you know, your whatever whoever your
Yeah,
partner is that you're
we
getting
don't
physical with,
discriminate.
that this is a bonding chemical. And so we can start bonding to guys before we even know who they are and if they're going to be a good fit for us and what their character is like. And so even though hooking up might be fun, it's actually really detrimental to getting to know somebody and to finding a partner who will really fit for you. And so to have to be forced into slowing down and to getting to know somebody first, building a friendship first, is actually really healthy.
Yeah, yeah, that is so true. And I haven't heard that perspective yet throughout this COVID situation.
Mhm.
It's so true. It's giving us that opportunity to really, I guess you could say, vet our potential partners in a more constructive manner. Whereas before, it's just like, oh, you're free to do whatever. But now it's like, okay, let's take a time out here.
Mhm. Exactly. And
Yeah.
you can avoid a lot of hurt feelings, a lot of pain, a lot of some of the other problems. I'm sure you have friends who've gotten pregnant and they weren't ready for being pregnant, and that totally can change your life. And so, when you're doing all of this online and on the phone, that's another way to stay safe. No worrying about diseases and no worrying about babies.
Yeah, absolutely. And I thought that was really I didn't know that there's an actual chemical that's produced. And I thought like people were just saying that like, oh, you just feel an attachment, but there's an actual brain trigger going on. Can you talk a little
Mhm.
bit more about that?
Well, if you start paying attention to your body in the future, you also see it. I know when I first learned about this and I started dating somebody, and he's an actor, very attractive, lived in New York, and I happened to meet him in New York. And so then I started watching what would happen because I would be with him and then I would be away from him for a while. And I'm like, this takes like 9 days to wear off. This attached feeling, 9 days to 2 weeks. And then I would watch it sort of dip. And so it's really something that you could feel in your body, that sort of connection, that attachment, that longing feeling. And then if you stay away for a while, you can watch it sort of diminish.
Trail off, yeah.
But yeah, it's physical, and it's going to be different too. Again, when I was playing with this, when I was first learning it, I was at a pool party with a date, new, like one of our first dates, and we were just sort of sitting on the edge of the pool talking, and he was like in the water more, and he just picked up my foot and he started giving me a foot massage. Now we hadn't kissed, we hadn't done anything, and I'm like, as I'm going giving this foot massage, which was of course feeling good, I'm noticing that I'm feeling more attracted to him.
Mm,
And I'm going, isn't this, so part of me stepping back and going, oh, isn't this interesting? Let's pay attention to this. And it's not maybe just sex. Maybe it's more than, the touching, because you don't think about your foot necessarily being a part of you that's going to attach you to some
right,
guy,
right.
and so, part of it is, everyone's going to be different with our hormones and our, the chemicals and and who we're with, etc. But part of it is just paying attention. And so, like, there's a part of you that steps back and observes yourself and observes what's going on, as opposed to just throwing yourself into it and living it and
Mm.
going, oh, this must be real. This feeling must be real because I'm feeling it.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, so do you from your experience, do you feel like there's anything that you've done to help yourself separate that feeling of, I feel very attracted to this person as opposed to realizing that, okay, maybe this is not quite where I need to go and it's just a feeling.
Well, part of it is early on letting the guy know that I'm not going to jump into sex with him, and letting him know that I take the time to get to know somebody, and that's important to me. And basically, you're going to find out if the guy's going, hey, you know what? That's great. I agree. That's the standard I'd like to have. So yeah, it'd be fun to have sex. But when it comes to looking for a partner, yeah, it might be good to wait. Or versus a guy who's like, nah, sorry, I'm just in it for sex. It's a really good way to screen people out
So true.
early on. But then it's me being able to have that freedom to not feel pressured and to sort of watch who this person is and to get to know him. And the things that I value in a relationship obviously are going to be things like communication and how he treats people, and not just how he is with me. And the more you're with somebody and seeing him around with other people and interacting people, how does he interact with the waitress when you're at a restaurant? How does he interact with his parents or his siblings or his friends? And so you have that time to sort of see this person in a variety of situations.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I know for me personally, that's been super duper key. I have experienced in the past just being on the flip side though of, hookups and, just like being just carefree in that sense. And, there's nothing wrong with it. I think for a lot of young ladies, sometimes it's a little bit hard to figure out what exactly you do want with the person that you're engaging with? Like, is it something that you are just desiring physical touch and, that side, or are you actually looking for something that's more serious and something that's more long term? And so I know for me, I actually went through a period of time where I was kind of struggling to figure that out. I was like, I don't really know. Like, let's just try it. Like let's just do whatever. And so I know for me that did cause a little bit of heartache, and as it should. I feel like you live and you learn throughout things. But yeah, is there any advice that you would give those young ladies who are just trying to figure it out?
Well, again, it's getting to know yourself to say, and sometimes, like you said, you have to learn the hard way. It's like you can go, I am able to just do a hookup and I can walk away and I don't leave part of myself with him. And I can walk away and it was fun. It was purely physical and it was just, I needed the release. However, there's a lot of people that go, I had fun, I needed the release, and I left a part of myself with him. And he's not necessarily feeling the same way. Guys don't have this chemical bond. And so if we think that we're going to get this guy attached to us through sex, that isn't usually the case.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something to be aware of. Don't just have sex because you want him to bond to you, because they're like, oh, we had sex, go away. It's the point after, oh no, go away. I don't want anyone to have to talk to you.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I had no idea. I thought everybody had this, but no, it's just women.
Yeah, and it's the same kind of hormone that we use when we have babies. We have a baby and it bonds us to our infants. And I was like, that is part of it.
Wow. Wow, that's fascinating to me. I had no idea, but that makes a lot of sense why a lot of the times women will tend to be more attached to the men after a sexual experience. And so, wow, that's eye-opening to me. So that's helpful. And so, I kind of want to jump into the next topic, which is trust issues.
Okay.
And I don't know if you've ever had this yourself at all, but something that I've learned from just having a lot of friends that are girls, and even guys too, where they can't really engage into a relationship, or even a date, like a first kind of date, in the way that they would want to, or in the fullness of capacity, because they have this trust barrier that is there. Somebody in the past has like totally violated their trust, and they can't seem to get past that no matter how much they want to.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts?
Well, for me, I did have a personal experience that I was engaged at one time, and then I found out that he had cheated on me. And actually, he's the only person in my whole life, my whole dating life, and I've been single my whole life, although boyfriends, and have been in a relationship for a while, that has ever cheated on me. And when I ended up that relationship and looked back on it, one of the things I saw was how often I denied my own intuition. So I would have a thought and wonder, and then I would talk myself out of it. For example, he had a really close female friend that they went on a ski trip and shared a hotel room. And I'm like, I can share a hotel room with my male friends, and it's just pure friendship. Have done that, have been on my own ski trips with male friends. But they were having sex. But that's how I talked myself out of it. I would say, well, I can do it. Therefore, so I was sort of putting my own values on him, my own abilities on him too. And afterwards, I said to myself, I have to pay attention to this intuition about guys. And the other thing I didn't pay attention to, or didn't give enough weight to, was the people around me, family and friends. Nobody was coming right out and saying, this isn't a good person for you. But there was small remarks here and here and here and here. And if I'd paid attention to all the small remarks, I would have gotten a big, but I wasn't, because they were small. So the other thing I did with my friends and family, I went to them and I said, don't ever give me small remarks again. If you have some doubts or some concerns, I want you to come out and tell me right up front about this. And not afterwards about, oh, we were sort of concerned about this. It's like, thanks. Why didn't you tell me? So making sure that you sort of open yourself up to friends and family who you trust and sort of asking for their feedback or telling them that you'll be open. You might not follow it, but at least you're hearing it, as opposed to with me, it was small enough and scattered enough to not put it all together. So
Yeah.
paying attention to your intuition, paying attention to what other people are really thinking about, because they're not going to have that romantic attachment. They're going to be able to see that your partner with a lot more clarity sometimes than you will.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I resonated with what you said about your family and friends because there's been actually a couple relationships in the past that even one of them, with them for 4 years, 4 years. And then afterwards, after we had already broken up, I had some friends and family say, like, yeah, I knew that he wasn't the one for you, or like I knew that like something wasn't gonna be right or something like that. I'm like, well, why didn't you say anything? Like, like it didn't need to be like this whole like confrontational type of conversation.
Mhm.
But I mean, like, yeah, I mean, I see it from their perspective too, where it's like you don't want to just tell somebody and cast doubt onto their relationship. So I get that. But yeah, I mean, how would you have that conversation?
Well, what you do is you sort of put it back on the other person. So they're telling you a story about what happened with their relationship, their partner, and you sort of said, well, how did you feel when he said that to you?
Mm.
Instead of just sort of glossing over it and just listening, or just sort of saying, oh yeah, that
Yeah.
sounds like you guys had a tough time, or whatever. Just sort of say and sort of stop it and put it back on them. And because a lot of times we might not tune into our feelings and go, yeah, that did hurt my feelings, and to say, okay, well, did you tell him it hurt your feelings? Or are you going to tell him it hurt your feelings? Or what are you going to do about those feelings? Or what are you going to do about hit that pattern he has?
Mhm.
Because this isn't the first time you've mentioned it. You mentioned it, a couple weeks ago, and then remember that time 3 months ago. So it's trying to put it up on them to sort of open up their own sense of what's going on inside me.
Right.
Because we can talk ourselves out of a lot. But
Mhm.
when a friend sort of says, hey, this is something to have feelings about, and then the friend validates those feelings, and then the friend talks about, okay, how are you going to honor your feelings with this person?
That's good. Yeah. That is so true. Wow, that is so helpful, especially for me. And like, we always have friends who are just not in the best relationships, or, are dating somebody that you're kind of like, just really kind of questioning. So I think that that's definitely helpful for me. I'm going to use that a lot more. But, what would you, for somebody who is in a committed relationship, let's say, like maybe they're married actually, and maybe the husband did something that violated the wife's trust, and they spent some time apart, and now they're coming back together or trying to take steps towards doing that. What kind of advice would you give for that relationship? Maybe yeah, what would you do?
All right. Well, first of all, I'm going to say there's actual violations of trust and one, and then there's perceived violations of trust.
Mm.
And those are the two. If you're going to be one of those women who are going to perceive a lot of violations of trust that aren't necessarily violations of trust,
Mhm.
you can end up with a partner who's going, I'm not paying a lot of attention. Here you go again. I didn't do anything wrong. Yes, I looked at that woman going by. That doesn't mean I want to go jump her, or even if I does, it's like that's male. It's like one of the things, for example, one of the things women don't understand about men, and men don't know this either, is that men have more focused vision.
Mm.
We have more peripheral vision. So it's one of the reasons, guys will stand in front of the refrigerator and go, honey, where's the ketchup? We open it, it's like, right there. It's like, because he didn't do this to find the ketchup. And we can open the refrigerator and we can see the whole thing. So think about this. The two of you are sitting on a beach next to each other. And out of the corner of your eye, you see this beautiful woman undulating down the beach in a very tiny bikini. And you're thinking, he's gonna like her. He's gonna want to look at her. So you've been watching her this whole time without even turning your head. And so then she crosses your line of vision. Now, and you're assuming he's been seeing her this whole time too. And then, but no, she crosses into his line of vision and keeps going. And then he turns his head to follow her. And now he's in trouble because you've assumed he's been watching her this whole time. And now he's watching her more.
Mm-hmm.
And you get mad at him. And in the reality, he's just watching her for the same amount of time you watched her. And you haven't, and all your insecurities have bumped up. And now you're going, oh, great, he wants to jump on her, which may be true, but that doesn't mean a guy, they can have these thoughts because they think about sex a lot. But that doesn't mean you have to get insecure. It doesn't mean he wants to not be with you. It doesn't mean he doesn't find you beautiful. It means he just saw this gorgeous woman and goes, oh, I'd like to jump on that. And then she's gone and he stops thinking of it. So a woman who is confident will say, honey, look what's coming your way. And then he'll go, whoa, beautiful, right? And then he'll go, gosh, I have a woman who's so confident that instead of punishing me, she can put herself, even though she's not going to look like that gorgeous model woman who's walking by, she's confident enough to go, hey, babe, look what's going to cross your path. Enjoy while she's there. But it's all made up. It's all going on in her head.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden he can be in trouble because he's looking, and she's mad at him now because he's looking, and she's ruining their time at the beach because he's looking. Or she can go, he's human. I was looking, I was admiring her, but instead I was getting myself all insecure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He was looking, and even if he did want to have, oh yeah, she'd be fine to have sex with. It's not like he's getting up and running down the beach and jumping on her. He's coming back to being together.
Right. Yeah. So that's that perceived violation of trust.
Right. And so there's a lot of women who are very insecure.
Mm-hmm.
And they also, and not just women, men too, but we're focusing on women here. So, and they also expect love to look a certain way. And so if the guy doesn't hit it right here, then, like, let's say he's doing something else that's in his mind is loving. He's gone and checked her tires to make sure there's enough air in there. He's checked her gas gauge to make sure there's enough gas in it in her car. That for him was a loving gesture, which she doesn't even notice if she even knew he did it. Right. But she's like, but he didn't do this. He didn't write me a love note today. So he must not love me. And whatever it is that her this is, and it's different for different women. If they don't do this, then they're like, oh, he doesn't love me. And then he's in trouble again. When he often either had one, no clue, or two, he was showing his love in a different way, or three, that was just not where he was that week or day or moment. So part of it is, again, going back to self-awareness. Is this something that he has really done? Like, is he really flirting, or is he somebody who is just very charming, and he's charming with everybody? And it doesn't mean that he's singled somebody out to flirt with, and therefore you need to be insecure with. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah.
I was going to say, my boyfriend, he's totally charming. He's not, looking at him, you wouldn't think, oh gosh, he's charming. That's like his superpower. He's got this superpower. She'll say to me, what did I talk to my doctor about? I said, just use your superpower on her. And because he does that, his doctors will go, hey, you want to go out for a drink with me? Male or female, doesn't matter. I'm like, what do you mean you're having a drink with your eye doctor? How does that happen? I've never had a drink, but So is it real, or are you feeling insecure? Is it your intuition, or is it your insecurity? And so those are questions that you need to ask. And if
Wow.
you're feeling insecure, then the way you approach them is, I'm feeling insecure, as opposed, I'm attacking you for whatever I'm perceiving that you've done that has made me feel more insecure.
That's so good. Yeah. And I feel like people just in general would only come to that decision if they had that self-awareness to really recognize which one is which. Because I know a lot of people, including myself, will oftentimes just jump to conclusions. And, if, wow, that example of like the love doesn't fit into this box, like it doesn't count kind of attitude. It's so common. I was actually just in a chat room with people, and they were talking about that exact thing where, if the man isn't chasing the woman at the beginning of a relationship, like she doesn't want it. It's not worth her time. That kind of thought process. And I feel like I'm so guilty for this. Like this is like probably one of the reasons why I'm single is that I'm at the point where like if somebody's not like willing to come after me, I'm probably just not interested, and I'm leaving it at that. And so with that in mind, I mean, it's not really a trust issue thing, but it's more just kind of like expectations versus reality. And so, what kind of advice could you give on that?
Well, it actually can be a trust issue, because there are a
Okay.
lot of men who actually do that chasing, and they come on very strong in the beginning. They're very romantic, very strong, very present. And the woman might not even have been that interested in him, but she's like, okay, he makes me fall in love with him because he's doing all these wonderful things, which she thinks is going to continue, and it doesn't. And then she's like, her feelings are hurt, and then he's done, he's moving on to the other person. So chasing isn't actually a good sign that somebody it has substance, and that he has longevity.
Mm,
So I think it's sort of how they chase you. Are they doing a lot of the traditional things that are like romantic, and is there a sense of they're really present? Is it more about the chase, or is it about the presence? And what kind of history does he or she have? And um, that, are they making you feel special, but are they doing it because they're really seeing what's special? Or are they going, anytime I focus on a woman for the month I'm chasing her, I can make her feel special? Am I making sense?
yes, I think so. And to like make a distinction, I mean, I'll share like something for me, like what does a chase look like, or something that I would like. Well, actually, I'll even leave a blanket statement because I've heard this several times from women. It's like, I want the man to make the first move. I want him to be the one to reach out to me, whether it be in person or, DMs or whatever. I want him to be the one to make that first move first. So that way I know he's interested, because and I want him to show that he's interested, even after that. Otherwise I get the sense that he's not interested, and therefore it's not going to go anywhere.
Right. Well, it's much better to assume that, of course, he's going to be interested because I'm so wonderful.
Yes.
And
Love
he might be shy. He might have concerns that you're out of his league, and so why be shot down? He might go, oh, we're at a bar and the music's loud, and I might not be the best looking guy in the place, and so she's not going to pay attention to me because I won't be able to talk to her because she won't be able to hear me. There's tons of reasons that he might not approach you, but that doesn't mean he's not interested. And there's actually studies done that show that it's the woman who gives the signal that she's available. So she looks at him and she smiles. There's something there so she's sort of got to let him know that he can approach her. And so if you're going around going, not looking at him, deliberately not looking at him, he's going to go, she's not interested. Why?
So guilty. That's
Why
me.
should I get shot down when we're talking, guys can have their fears and their insecurities and their vulnerabilities too. They're not men of iron. And so they need to know from a look and a smile, or maybe a couple looks and smiles, that it's safe to approach you.
So true. Yeah,
Mhm.
I'm so guilty of that. I mean, when things are more in person, I was definitely that person who's just like, I'm just not gonna make eye contact. I'm just not gonna look. I'm like,
No, no, no. You have to make eye contact. You have to make eye contact and you have to smile. You can look away after that, and then come back to it. But you have to give him that. You have to give him something.
yeah.
And also, if you're next to him, like say you're in a store and you're in the drugstore looking at shelves of stuff, and he's there and you're there, um, say something to him. You know, he might be from that go. You go, don't get those pills because those are the ones that make you throw up.
Yes.
He's gonna go. That's gonna catch his attention, and it's gonna be something to whatever. So you can either say, "Oh, have you tried that brand? I've never used that brand," or "That's hey, this one's my favorite." And so you open up a dialogue.
Hmm. Yeah,
And so
that's
if
so
you're
good.
cute and funny about it, that's even better.
Yes, I love that. I am personally not on any dating apps at this time because me personally, it just has not worked out and it's just time suck away from me. But I have come across so many people that, especially during COVID, they're like, it is so hard to meet people. Like, even if we do go on a date, it's like weird and awkward, which sometimes I agree. Just going on a date from dating apps, that's another topic. But
Mhm.
yeah, like we live in such a digital age that I feel like people just don't know how to have real life conversations. And so that type of advice, like you could do that in a grocery store, you could do that when you're taking a walk. Like if you want to really get out there and meet people, you got to kind of take a step forward and ask a question, start that conversation. And
Mhm.
so from your perspective, Deborah, like do you feel like it is totally ladylike, I'll say, for a woman to start that conversation first with a man?
Yeah. And especially do it when you are being ladylike. For example, every time a guy holds the door open for me, I always thank him. And if there's a little bit of time because there's maybe a crowd or something, I might even say another compliment. So nice to see a man who's a gentleman. And even if it's not about attracting him to go out with him, you know, he might be old and ugly or whatever, but it's about putting out good things into the world. And that the more you do that, the more you'll find opportunities to have conversations, and the more that you'll be putting goodness into the world. And you're standing in a grocery line. That's like a perfect conversation. But it doesn't have to be because, oh, he's cute and hot next to me. It could be a she or whatever, but it's somebody that you're practicing having a conversation with, practicing kindness. I do this a lot. If I only have a few things or I'm not in a hurry, I let people go in front of me. I invite them to go in front of me. And sometimes and people are always like really happy. and and there was one time a few months ago. I did this actually did with two people, and this guy had observed me letting two people in front of me, and he was young. He would probably been perfect for you, and he said to me, he goes, "I've never seen this before," and I said, "Well, that's a shame because it's such an easy thing to do if you have the time." And other people might really need those few minutes and the convenience. And I said, and they go out of here with a good feeling, and I get the good feeling. And so
Mhm.
by being kind to people and looking for opportunities to be kind, that can be just little, they don't have to be big, you actually feel better yourself.
Mhm.
And he's like, wow, I never thought of it. So we had this whole conversation
Yeah.
on kindness, and then we went off our separate ways. But
Mhm.
if it had been you, he probably would have asked you out.
Thank you. Thanks. Oh my gosh. Yes. So I'm so glad that you brought that up because, we're talking about love and relationships here, but I think people miss the part of in order to jump into those loving relationships, those romantic relationships, you have to be able to make connections, first of all. first and
Mhm.
foremost. And, chances are if you do run into that really hot guy that is totally your type in the grocery store and you haven't had a conversation with somebody in person for the last week or and a half, 2 months, a year, whatever it might be, you're probably not going to be able to have a good conversation with that person and they'll, skip out of your life. And so I think it's a huge benefit to people to really challenge themselves to just say hi to somebody once a day, give one compliment a day. Something so simple like that will help you to grow in that area of communication and be able to set you up so that way you can meet that right person. When that person does come along, you don't drop the ball and fumble and look dumb, right? I mean, not that you look dumb at all, but you want to be able to be confident in that conversation and carry yourself the way that you want to be presented. So I'm so glad that you brought that up.
Yeah, and compliments. It's like look for opportunities to give random strangers that you're passing by or you're in an elevator with compliments. Like yesterday, I was working in the hospital yesterday, really late at night, and a woman was, and somebody else, she was with somebody, they were talking, they were walking by, and she sort of was about to turn and he was going to go this way. And she had this red purse, like probably for Valentine's. I really liked her purse. And I'm about 6 or 7 feet behind her. I'm like, nice purse. She looks startled and she looks behind her. And I said, I really love your purse. And she smiles and off she goes. But it was like, I wasn't even that close to her. But I thought, why not? I didn't even think about it. I just did it. But it's looking for those kind of things and watching people smile. Because a lot of times people don't get complimented. And people need that. And why not give that to people when you see something that you like, a piece of jewelry or, the cut of a coat, guy's coat or some, interesting shoes or.
Yeah. Yeah.
So right
So
now, especially with COVID, people aren't feeling like they're seen. And so if you go, hey, I see you, even if it's just 30-second encounter.
So true. Yeah, it's so true. And yeah, I feel like this is now going to go off into another conversation that I would love to continue, but I know we're stay on topic with love and relationships. So, jumping into now like communication. And
Mhm.
I put dating apps on here because it's a form of communication. So I'm curious, Deborah, have you ever been on a dating app before? Have you ever used the internet to date somebody? And what are your thoughts on it? What is a
I haven't
psychotherapy?
used the app. I haven't used an app. I have done online dating. I actually met my boyfriend that way, not because, you know, I wasn't thinking of it. I was doing the dating and going, this is like all old men. Go away. And, I was like, and they were like, I found them not very interesting. So after a while, I was like, I'm about to end my membership because it's like weird. And my boyfriend, who's a lot younger than me, not my physical type necessarily, but he's a writer, and so I was seeing the relationship as this is somebody who needs mentoring that I could mentor, and so that's how we got into the relationship with sort of this mentoring aspect. And over the course, and at the time it was just talking and on the phone and a little bits of online stuff, but it was through this mentoring and getting to know him in this way that we started to build just a really good friendship. But he was making it clear that he was interested in me for more than that. I'm like going, you're way too young. Way too young. And what changed it, I started seeing that he's like, he really gets me. We have a lot of things in common that we like, and we could have these strange discussions about science fiction and fantasy shows and stuff that I don't always get to do with most people, the nerdy side of me.
Yeah.
And then one day I was on a deadline for one of my books. It was due in a couple of days. And it's late at night and I'm trying to finish this scene and I am stuck, which doesn't usually happen to me, where I'm like, I don't know how to feel. I don't know how to finish this scene. And he happened to call and I started complaining about what's happening. And he was like, send it to me. I go, what do you mean send it to you? You haven't read my books. You haven't read this book. You don't know anything about it. He goes, just send it to me. I'm like, fine. Off it goes. 45 minutes later, it comes back, and darned if he hadn't done it. And of course, I rewrote it, but I was like, there is something to this man that is very special. And that changed everything for me. But it wasn't the normal kind of online dating, but it was giving somebody a chance to sort of prove who he was over time.
Wow. Yeah, a little question about that. So what stood out to you about that interaction? Was it the fact that he offered to help you, or was it the writing that he did? Like what was it that made you recognize like, oh, this man is special?
I think it was all of it, but it was just the fact that, I think there's many different ways of somebody offering to help, which would have been nice and appreciative, and but it was like, how could you possibly help? You can't write my book. Maybe if we'd been collaborating all this time, or I'd been sharing the books, or you'd read my other books in the series, if you knew my writing style. But it seemed so impossible to me that he could do it, and to have him do it. And it was like, I'd been seeing signs that he was getting me on this deeper level that most guys don't. But that was like, all right, he gets it. He gets me. He's so tuned into me. There's a connection here and ability that's unique. So, and I kept thinking, okay, I'm old. You're going to get, you're young, go off. And it hasn't happened. It's almost 3 years now, but 3 years next week.
Wow, congrats. Oh my gosh.
So,
Yeah.
So, but it's just it's not the kind of relationship on the surface that it would look like I would be in.
That's an interesting fact, right? Because my issue with dating apps is that exact thing where you're on Tinder or Bumble or whatever might be, and the only thing that you see is their pictures, and a lot of people look great, a lot of people look not so great, and you're basing your decision whether or not you want to give this person a chance just based off of their pictures. Sure, they might have a bio, sure, they might have some other information, but the first and foremost priority thing is how do they look. And we are very visual people. We make decisions based off of what we see most of the time. And that's the thing for me, is like I don't want to be on there because I feel like it filters my decision making, and not necessarily in a way that I might want it to be, because I'm kind of like you, where it's like, all right, I'm always open, and even if it's not a romantic relationship, like I'm always open to meeting new people, and seeing what they bring to the table. And so that's the thing for me. So I'm like wondering,
I
like,
would jump on Zoom as soon as possible, if with that person, because I think that visual is important. And it's easy to sort of, if you're just talking on the phone or chit-chatting online or texting or whatever, it's easy to go, oh, I like this person and whatever. But if you see them and then you're like, oh, no, there's no chemistry there. So at least with the Zoom, you can sort of go, oh, I like how this person looks, and I'm attracted to him or her, and then you can develop. You can go. It's like at least you've got that. So, and it cuts out a lot of your time. So I think early on, if you start chatting with somebody, I'd say let's go to Zoom. And
right. Yeah, that is so true. Because even when you do see their pictures online, they might not really look like that.
right. And I would also say, and I did say in the one time I was doing it, and in my description is like, if you lie, you're out. If you tell me you're 56 and you're really, 76, and I find that out, gone. You're gone. If you tell me you weigh this much and you weigh that much, you're gone. No lying.
Yeah.
That's character right there.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, yes, communication is so key. And wow, the lying definitely is, another topic, but I feel like a lot of people, especially on dating apps, and they're more of that open kind of person where it's like, okay, let's see where it goes. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with thinking like that, but sometimes it makes the waters just really murky and really hard to navigate, especially when you're doing a lot of messaging or even talking in person. I don't know if you, I don't know if you use this term mind games, but have you heard that used in the, yeah, very casual sense of, if I say something like this, it will make them feel a certain way and respond this way. And, kind of, I don't know, trying to do some mental jujitsu with like what you say will affect what they say. Um, in my opinion, I feel like that's unhealthy. But I would like to hear from you. Like why do people do that? And like what
Because
I don't
they want the other person to like them.
know.
And so they sort of put their best foot forward, or they sort of do what they know has gotten people attracted to them before.
Mm,
And so, it's a lot of times paying attention. So for example, for guys, a lot of times they'll go on a date and they'll do a lot of the talking. And so you actually want to look for a guy who actually asks you questions and that you have a real back and forth. So because the guy's sort of presenting himself and you're like going, I don't want the presentation. I want to know if you're gonna like focus in on me, you're gonna be curious about me, you're gonna be asking me these questions and finding out about, and not necessarily just the normal kind of question. Oh, what do you do? What's your job like? What's this and what's that? What kind of other questions is he asking you? That kind of thing.
yes, yes, that is so true. So okay, that's a good one. How else? What about from the female side? Like, I know there I know there are some females that do play mind games themselves, and they might be doing it on. They might know that they're doing it. They might not know that they're doing it. So, what would you recommend to somebody who like kind of tends to drift in that direction of playing mind games?
That you might say to them, first of all, I, I would be very blunt and I would say, what's your character? Are you going to be a woman of integrity? And because mind games, if you're just doing it for playing, that's not a person of integrity. You don't mess around with people's hearts and people's minds. The other thing I say to people, and I say to men and women, is like, be very careful what you promise. And that means, it doesn't mean you're saying verbally, I promise this. It means that if you sit down to watch a football game with this guy because he likes football and you don't, you are setting yourself up for a lot of football games. Unless, because he's going, great, I found a woman who likes to watch football with me. And you're going, I'm only do this because I want to hang out with you, and as a date. And he's going, great, a football watcher. So what have you just promised? Now, if you sit down with him and go, I'm really not interested in football, but I'd just like to sit next to you on the couch and watch this game, that bores me, fine. And he goes, oh, okay, let's see if you'll like it or not. But what are you signing up for? Because a
Wow.
lot of times what happens in a relationship that makes the relationship, it's like when people say, oh, it's not like it used to be. Well, it's because people stop delivering on what they inadvertently were promising. And that, if a guy stops being romantic, the guys are usually blamed for that. They get married, you stop being romantic. But what also happens is the woman who used to be very appreciative and she would compliment him a lot, and because that really fills up guys' gas tanks. The car that they are fueled on is appreciation in a way that doesn't work for us. I mean, it's good, we like it, but they need it. And so in the beginning of a relationship, a woman is very appreciative and she acknowledges things he does and she pays attention to those things. And then after a while, she stops a lot of the time, or most of the time. So what do you say to him? What do you do with him? What are you sort of inadvertently promising to continue doing in the relationship? And so part of it is asking yourself, can I do this for the rest of my life? If this moves into a sincere, committed relationship that maybe will lead to marriage, can I watch football every Sunday for the rest of my life? Because that's what I'm setting myself up to do.
Wow. That is good. That is so good. And I've honestly never thought of that before. Yeah, whatever you do in a dating relationship is how it's going to be when you get married. But when you start doing things that are maybe out of your character or just not aligned with how you would spend the rest of your life, that's when you start getting into trouble. And I know for me, like I've done some of those things where I'm like, okay, I signed myself up for something that I probably wouldn't do, and that was out of a spirit of like, yeah, I want to spend time with this person, but I also want to serve them in a way, like, and not that I'm like doing anything for them, but it's like, okay, like I'm being
Happy, they'll like it.
yeah, yeah. And so I know for me, and I know a lot of women are like this, where they just want to be able to serve their man in some way, shape, or form because, like, he does some good stuff for her and, maybe he deserves it. But a lot of times it kind of, I don't know, hurts us in a way in the long run is that we're serving, serving, serving. And like our tank isn't getting filled either. Like, how would you handle that?
Well, first of all, make sure that you're acknowledging when he does do something that works or that you appreciate or that you pay attention to. Because a lot of times we think about it, but we don't necessarily verbalize it. For example, um, way back when there was a time, and my boyfriend at the time, I'd walked into the bedroom and he'd made the bed. My bedroom, my house, he'd made the bed. As in my head, I thought, oh, how nice, he made the bed. And I kept on going to where I think I was heading for the bathroom to get something. And then I caught myself thinking it. I stopped, I turned around, and I went back out to the other room. And I said, oh, how nice. You made the bed. Thanks. It was so nice to walk into the room and see it all made. He's like, happy. Guess who made the bed more often? My bed at my house. So it was such a lesson for me on thinking, going, wow, I think a lot more positive things than I actually say. And that I need to make more of an effort to notice and to say it. And then when there's something that they do that you really like, you make sure you say it and then you keep following up. For example, one of my boyfriends he had a lot more money. And so he was really good at buying me designer purses. And so, of course, I would be very appreciative when I got the gift. And then what would happen over the next few months, anytime somebody gave me a compliment about my purse, I would come home and I would tell it to him. Like, so-and-so gave me this compliment about the purse today. And then he'd go, we're happy. Even though I bought that purse 6 months ago, I'm still making her happy with it. I got a lot of purses. Not that I was trying to manipulate him to give me the purses, but I was just continuing to express my appreciation that he had given me this gift and that I was continuing to appreciate it and love it. So it's that kind of thing, is making sure that you're telling him what works. And then if it starts to die off, you might sort of, again, step back and go, what have I been doing? Have whatever he's doing that's dying off, have I been doing something to contribute that? Well, maybe I've stopped wearing makeup at home. I used to always wear makeup, and now I don't. So what have I promised him? I wear makeup a lot. And so maybe it's time to go back to wearing some makeup and making an effort to look pretty for him, rather than he goes, gosh, she doesn't make an effort for me anymore. She used to make an effort. She used to make me feel good because I could tell she wanted me to know and to feel this way. She was showing me by how she would present herself that I was important. And now she's showing me that in the ratty nightgown and hair up to here all day. I'm not saying when you wake up, but how are you presenting yourself to him? Right. So there's those things to pay attention into yourself. Yeah. And then the other thing to do is then to talk to him about it and not complain. Like, oh, you don't do this to me anymore. You used to do. But to say, sweetie, I really miss that. Because remember how you'd come home and the first thing that you do, you come in and give me this big, huge hug. And that was one of the best parts of my day. And I'm really sorry I didn't tell you that more, because I just felt, oh, he's home and wrapped in your love, and it took 30 seconds and I loved it. And lately that hasn't been happening and I miss that. And then he'd go, oh, sorry, I've been thinking about the mail or whatever. And then he'll make more of it. And then when he does it, you go, oh, here's that hug. I've been missing the hug. I love this hug. You're so wonderful. He's like, I did it. I made her happy. And then he's going to remember more often. And if he forgets, you don't you don't get mad at him. You go, where's my hug, honey? I need that hug. And then you say, oh, I love it. And then he goes, okay. So he feels good. He doesn't feel punished.
Yeah.
The more you punish a guy for not giving you the love or romance, the more he might do it out of guilt or shame, but he doesn't do it out of necessarily an open heart. And that's what you want.
Wow. That is so true. Yeah. And the example about the makeup, it's really not about the makeup per se. It's just about in the dating phase, like, were you wearing makeup that whole time? Like, if he only saw you with makeup on, that's who he married, the girl with the makeup. And it's not to say that the makeup makes you any better than you are in person, or if you don't wear makeup that you're any less. That's not
But
it.
you know what? The truth is, makeup does make us better. There's a few women out in the world who are just not gorgeous the way they roll out of bed. But even like you'll see on online sometimes when the movie stars are like, here's my regular face, when they do those photos, you're like, yeah, they're not as perfect as they look on screen or in photos. And the truth is, makeup, provided we're talking about well done makeup, not like got blue up to your eyebrows, but the makeup that really does enhance your appearance.
Yes, it does enhance for sure. Yeah. And I think for me, like, I know that I'm not the type of person who'd be putting on makeup for every day for the rest of my life. So I know for a fact that, like, if I'm in a dating relationship, I need to have a decent amount of time where I'm not wearing makeup around them. So that way they know what to expect, because, I just don't want to be that. And so it just depends on who you are. Like, I have met several women who are like, I love makeup and I will wear it every single day of my life. And that's great. And you're gonna look amazing doing it. And then there are people like me who is like, I could care less about makeup. I mean, it's great. If I want to look cute, I'll do it. But that's not who I am. I'd rather just, wake up and roll out of bed and, just do the bare minimum. And that's fine too. It just depends on who you are.
And also, you also have to sort of think about the reality. It's like, all right, you might think you're going to wear makeup for the rest of your life, but what happens when you have a baby and a toddler? You barely have time to go to the bathroom by yourself. Not by yourself. You probably have the toddler right there as you're going to the bathroom. You really think you're going to be able to, you might manage lip gloss. You think you're going to manage makeup. You might be lucky to, get your hair combed that day. So again, what are you really promising? Are you really going to get up half an hour early every day of your life so when he wakes up, you're perfect? Or are you realizing that this is a standard I might not be able to commit to?
Wow. Yeah, that is so huge. That is really good. And so I know we're a little bit over time. Do you have a hard stop at all? Okay. Just like a few more things. So, I guess in general, I mean, how to be a better communicator with your partner. I think you kind of touched on, if they kind of are, slacking in something that they've been doing in the past. Like, I think you touched on that super duper well. Um, h- what about in the case of, like, I don't know, like, maybe there's like a new issue that has, like, arisen. Like, it's not something that you could have foreseen coming in the dating phase, but now we're married and this new issue's coming up. And how would you recommend couples handle stuff like that and communicate in the effective way?
Well, part of it, I think you just said it perfectly, to sit down and say there's a new issue and just to sort of talk about it as this hasn't been here, or maybe there's been hints of it that were easy to handle when they were small, but now here it is, it's bigger. And so it's to say, okay, let's sit down and discuss this. And you talk, and part of good communication is actually making space for the other person. That means don't interrupt. And what I do when I'm counseling with somebody, I'll think of something I want to respond to, I will, in my mind, I will put like a little hook, like you're going to hang something on it. And I go, okay, hang that question or comment on that hook. And so by the end of their talking, I might have several hooks where I've got that thing, and that thing to come back to. But I've let them finish what they have to say. And then before you launch into your side, you let them know what you understand. So you can say, and it doesn't mean you agree. It just means I can understand that it would be important to you to have your mother come live with us. And that, that's what you do in your culture, and that you wouldn't be considered a good son if you didn't do that, and you love her. And I think it's really wonderful that the two of you are so close. And then you use a word that connects, and it's not the but that we usually use. We use a different 3-letter word, which is and. Because if you use but, you're going to negate all the good things you just said. So you say, and I don't know that I could live with another person, another adult person in the house. It's like, we never talked about this. It wasn't something I signed up for. I can see its importance to you. And I think I would have a hard time with privacy, and, how territorial I am about the kitchen, and I couldn't imagine sharing it. You get in trouble in the kitchen. Can you imagine, your mom, if she wants, so then the point is that you're discussing it in a non-adversarial manner. And I'm trying to understand, and I'm trying to communicate to you in a way that will help you understand me. It's, so it's not an attack. It's not, how could you possibly think I would want to live with your mother? Can't even stand your mother. I can't even stand my own mother. I wouldn't want my mother here. Why would I want your mother here? It's not that kind of talk. You're not going to approach it like that.
That was a good example. That's so relevant, I feel like, for a lot of couples. A good one. Okay, I love that. And then lastly, so when people talk about the one, finding the one, do you believe in that, of like, everybody has like
So
another, soulmates, or and then as you're dating, you're working and trying to find that right connection? And do you believe in that?
well, I think it's not necessarily a one. I think we can, when you think of the whole population of the world, we probably have several people who could be our soulmates. And if you even think about expanding the idea of a soulmate, that means that your soul existed before it came here, and so that means either in heaven or in reincarnation or whatever. And there's a lot of people in heaven, and there's a lot of people that maybe were reincarnated, or however you want to look at it. And so why would it just be one person? Could be several people. But obviously a soulmate is a very intense and deep kind of love, and not everyone's going to find it, because I also think it's sort of rare. And I also think you can have soul friends and soul animals. It's like you might have had like 10 dogs over the course of your life, but there was that one dog that was so close to you that you just were, that dog knew you without even saying a word. If you were feeling sad, that dog would come sit in your lap. There was that soulmate dog, soulmate friend. It's like, and
I love that.
yeah. And I call them, they're like the rare jewels in the pebbled path of life. That's what soul friends are, and soul people, and soul dogs, and soul,
I have never heard of that before, but I love it, because I've definitely had a couple soul dogs in my life, and I was always like, why do I gravitate towards you so much? But
Because you're the soul, you're the soul animal. That doesn't mean you don't love dearly love your other ones. If you have that soulmate, that soul animal. So, but for most of human history, if you didn't have your marriage arranged by your family or by your king or whoever was in power who made you get married, you just married somebody who lived close, who was in your village, because for most of human history we walked. If you're rich enough to have a horse, that was, maybe you could get to the next village, but you walked. So you married someone in your village. They did studies up until, I think it was like World War II. It's like people, like say in New York, you marry somebody within a 3-block radius. And so, and you looked for somebody who was a good provider and who would be, so because women needed some man who would be, because you weren't going to be providing, you were going to be doing the home and the kids, and he was going to be bringing in the income. So, and they were perfectly happy. It was a different, so it's like, what are your expectations? Are you looking for somebody and you're going to hold out, and no matter what, it's going to be the soulmate, or is it somebody, this is somebody I could really make a good marriage with, a good life with, and I could love. And it might not be to the depths of, we're going to kill ourselves like Romeo and Juliet if, this person, dies too. But it's still a very deep and meaningful relationship. And so I think that for most of human history, that's, if you were lucky enough to marry somebody that you was a choice, that was the kind of person that you looked for.
Yeah. Wow, that brings up another question for me. Because I mean, what you were referring to is to the fact that you could marry somebody who's not your soulmate. And, I do know a lot of people get divorced, and maybe it's not for that specific reason, but, if somebody gets divorced because they feel like, well, I just recognize that this person isn't my soulmate. I don't know if that's really like the right decision, in my opinion, just because I mean, maybe you marry this person because they're a good partner, like you said, like they're a protector, they're a great father. I don't know, something along those lines. And so I don't know. Like for me, divorce really hits home because I grew up in a divorced home. So, I know nobody ever gets into a marriage thinking I'm getting divorced or like planning to get divorced. Nobody ever plans that at all. But yet there's so much divorce in the United States. And so I don't like, how do we kind of sort that out? Obviously, it's everybody's decision. Like everybody can make their own decisions on what they want to do. But when approaching that, like say if you're married and you recognize, I don't think this person is my soulmate. Like how would you recommend somebody handle those feelings and thoughts? Like,
Well, because they don't have to be your soulmate to be a good partner and to be a loving partner. And that in marriage, you're actually going to go through stages where you're like totally in love, and then you sort of feel like you're falling out of love. And then, you work on it and some things pass and you're in love again. And so it's going to be like, you're going to be going close and far throughout the course of a relationship. And that if you find yourself sort of drifting apart, and maybe because there's a baby or whatever, then that's where you have discussions. Do we need to go to counseling? Do we need to go, we need to get a babysitter so we can go on a date night, every other week. And just where we don't talk about the baby, we talk about us and those conversations that we used to have when we were dating. And so what are we doing to determinedly bring us back closer together? Because we've noticed we're starting to drift apart. And so those are those kind of things. And that, that sort of head over heels love that you feel when you're courting can settle into something that's really special and deep and not the same as it was in the beginning. And so before, couples were forced to, they don't get divorced. And so they were forced to either be miserable the rest of their lives or to try to work together. And that also, for most of human history, we needed two people in a relationship because a single mother couldn't survive because she couldn't raise the kids. And first of all, there was not a lot of work that women could do that would bring in money. And secondly, okay, if she's doing that, who's out there chopping the firewood to heat the stove, and who's out there digging up the potatoes, and who's out there hunting the deer to, so it's like we needed two people just sort of to manage the labor that went into making a family and surviving. And so that there was a real recognition of people's contributions to a relationship, and that there wasn't necessarily an expectation that it was going to look like it's all hearts and flowers. That's like, oh great, you just went to the wood pile and chopped up a bunch of wood and brought it in so we don't freeze. I'm going to be appreciative of that.
Yeah. Yeah, that is so true. And you know, it's possible. You just need to change your perspective. And I think you said a key word in there. It's the actions. You know,
Mhm.
what are you actually doing to work together? Because if you're not doing anything, then obviously you're going to be miserable because you're not working together on that. But yeah, there's a big difference between, you know, you recognize it and you're actually working towards it to help move yourselves forward versus not. So,
Right.
good
And
point.
also, what are you focusing on in your head? I remember once I went on a vacation with a boyfriend and he annoyed me about something, and I noticed how I was feeling resentful about it, and I was starting to dwell on it, and I was starting to spiral in and bring all the other things that I might be annoyed with him about, and I could just feel myself doing this, and I'm like, stop, we're on vacation. If I go down this, we could really have a bad vacation, or I could let it go. And I was like, I made a choice. I let it go. Like half an hour later, it was truly gone. And we were fine. He never knew because it was all in my head. And it wasn't even something I like, do I even need to bring it up? Like, do I like, I don't know, something to do with the luggage or whatever it was. And so I let it go. And there was two times in that whole week and a half that that happened to me. And I both times I saw it was me starting to get resentful and pull in the other any other resentments I had. And I was like, wow, I let it go. Things were fine. Who knew that a lot of my own, I could have created much more of my own unhappiness or our own unhappiness, all because of my own head. And focusing on the negative instead of focusing on the positive.
So true. Wow, you gave me a very visual image of like the tornado. It just pulls in all the other resentful things in your life. Wow, that's a good visual, and it's really, really so true. The more whatever you focus on, you're gonna get more of it. And so
Mhm.
when you are focusing on the negative, that one little thing that he did with the luggage, yeah, you
Well,
know, that could send you on a downward spiral towards, you know, look, evaluating if he's even the right person for you, which is
yeah, we would have home and broken up instead of, and part of me is like, really appreciate he's paying me for this really nice vacation. Appreciate that instead of focusing on this thing that has annoyed you.
right. Yeah. And I think that also comes to gratitude, you know,
Mhm.
and
Yes.
voicing that gratitude to help him understand that you are grateful.
Yes. And gratitude actually changes our brain. So if we're angry, if we're fearful, if we go to a place of gratitude, that changes our brain, changes our attitude and our emotions. And so gratitude is really, really important to be sort of a daily practice. And that when we think about it, especially in our culture, we can find so many things to be grateful for. It's very easy right now to go to the negative. We have COVID, we have politics, we have all the crazy people who are thinking weird things in our country. Or you can go, hey, I have a toothbrush. And toothbrush, toothpaste, a lot of people in the world don't have these.
Amen.
They don't have the water. They have to
Amen.
go to some little pond, scummy pond that's 5 miles away to even get the water. How often do we stop and appreciate our toothbrushes?
Yes, that toothbrush. Amen to that, Deborah. I love that. And, you know, I think that's a great place to end. I love ending on gratitude. I think that's perfect. So, last thing I want to do is okay, so I know you're a New York Times bestselling author. So, are you coming out with any books anytime soon that the listeners can pick up?
Well, they can actually go to Amazon and pick up a whole bunch of my books. There's like 30 of them out there,
Uh-huh.
maybe more. I haven't counted lately. So just look up Debra Holland. And right now, I'm sort of like I said, I'm adapting my series into a TV streaming series. I've
Mhm.
got a couple nonfiction articles on Medium, and I'm going to be doing some more of that. So just sort of doing different things, right? But I'm doing so much counseling right now with COVID, and so I'm not doing as much writing as I normally do. I think just there's just so much need right now for
Mhm.
people to just for me to be doing the counseling instead and workshops and
Mm,
things.
gotcha. Yeah. And so is your book series a like one single like story, or is there a bunch of different ones?
Well, they're romances, and so each romance, there's a series, or the one that I'm most well known for. It's called the Montana Sky series, and so there's each book has its own hero and heroine, but they're all interconnected. So they all take place in the same town and same prairie town in Montana, and so the characters are reoccurring. So once you meet the first like hero and heroine, you'll see them again and other stories, but it won't be focused on them.
Ooh, that's fun. I love that. So everybody go look on Amazon, Montana Sky, Debra Holland, New York Times bestselling author. Is there any place that you'd like people to follow you on social media, or how
Well,
can
I'm on Facebook. I do a lot on Facebook. I don't do a lot of other social media. I'm very lazy about that. But and so it would be mostly Facebook or Facebook or Medium. As like I said, I'm starting to do Medium.
Mhm.
So
Great. Oh my gosh. Well, I'd love to do a follow-up interview
of course.
later when your TV series is going to come out. I think that would be a really cool thing to promote.
We'll like be helpful.
Yes, yes. Okay, cool. Well, last thing, well, I keep saying last thing, but this might not make it into like the final cut of the podcast, but is there any like person or resource or anything that you need in your life to help you, push any of your projects forward, any way that I can help you out in any area?
Well, I think just doing what you're doing and being yourself like this is I love doing these kind of things where I'm talking, I'm giving information, and I'm helping people. And so you are helping me help others. And so the two of us together have just done this really nice podcast that hopefully will help other women and men too and make a difference in their lives.
Oh, yes. Okay. All right. Well, yes, let me know if there's anything else that I can help you with, if there's any people that you'd ever like to get into contact with, or I don't know, any partnerships or collaborations you feel like you would just love in your life. I can definitely help there too.
All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate that offer.
Yeah.
And you take care.
Yeah,
Stay
absolutely.
safe, stay healthy.
Yes, yes, you too. And lastly, I'm a person of faith, so I would love to pray for you if you would allow me.
Yeah, of course. Yes.
Okay.
Especially oh, right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, yes. Okay. All right. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this day, Lord. Thank you so much for bringing Deborah into my life. She's been an incredible blessing. She's helping so many people overcome grief, helping so many people connect with their love life, connect with their relationships. And Lord God, we thank you that you have brought these amazing relationships into the human race because we need it. And you know that you have made us to be relational people. So I thank you for bringing her into my life because she just thoroughly blessed me today and deep diving into this topic of love and relationships, God. And I pray that you will completely release your supernatural blessings upon her life and her projects, whether it be writing, whether it be launching this TV series, whether it be working on these other workshops and working with hospitals and doing all the amazing things that she does. Lord God, I pray that you will just anoint her with the supernatural magnetic success that I know she deserves, because she is just such a giver. She is such a person, such a woman of strength, Lord God. And I pray that you'll bless her relationship and bless all the friendships that she has in her life, and that she'll just have an amazing Valentine's Day with her boyfriend. And I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. That's a lovely, very, very touching, lovely prayer. And I really let myself take it in as we were praying. So
That's
thank you. And all the best to you too.
Yes, yes, all the best. Yes, we'll definitely stay in contact and touch for sure. Actually, I don't know if you're open to it. Is email the best way to reach you, or where would be the best way for me to
Yeah.
talk to you again?
And I can also give you my phone number too if you want it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I would
And,
love.
and if I don't get back to you right away, within a couple days, email me again because I get so many emails that might have gotten lost, especially if I've been doing a lot of crisis work.
Sure, sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, I want to go ahead and launch the podcast tomorrow, uh,
Uh-huh.
given that I can figure it out. So hopefully, but
Yeah, and friend me and tag me on Facebook too.
okay. Yes, I will do that. Okay. What is your phone number so that way I can make sure I
Seven
can
one four three
714
nine two
392
1668.
714-392-1668. All right. I will 100% cut that out of the audio, so no need to worry about that, which I'll probably just stop the recording right now.